All right, let's get into it. We are about to go on an absolutely incredible journey. Way further back in time than you might expect. Forget Harappa, forget the Vedas for a second. We're going back millions of years to uncover the story of the very first people to set foot on the land we now call India.
So who were they? You might think you know the answer, but I promise you it's probably not who you think. They weren't the amazing engineers of the Indus Valley. And, get this, they weren't even our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens. They were someone else entirely, a long-lost human relative who stepped into a world that was, frankly, almost unrecognizable.
But before any humans could show up, the stage itself had to be built. So this first part of our story, it's not even about people. It's about the absolutely mind-bending geological journey of the Indian subcontinent.
I want you to picture India as this giant ship, an island that broke off from Africa and just sailed across a massive ocean for millions of years. And then, bam! A collision with Asia. And this wasn't just some fender bender. This was a creation event. The Earth just buckled and folded on itself, pushing up the mighty Himalayas. This incredible new wall of mountains changed everything. It created the monsoons, it gave birth to these massive rivers, and it turned what was a barren piece of rock into a lush, green paradise, just waiting for life to arrive.
But the first ones to show up? They weren't human. This new world was a land of giants. I mean, seriously. Forget the elephants we know today. Back then, you had the stegodon, this colossal beast with 10-foot-long tusks. And in the rivers, not just crocodiles, but the hexaprododon, a hippo-like creature the size of a truck, with jaws that could literally crush rock. This was a brutal, dangerous world, and size was everything.
And it's into this world, this land of giants, that the first true human pioneers walked. A species of human, yeah, but not our species. This was their time, long before we were even a thought.
Just stop and think about that number for a second. 1.5 million years. That's not a typo. That's how long ago the very first evidence of humans was left in India. And it comes in the form of these simple stone tools found near Chennai. It is just stunning proof that someone was here, thinking, creating, and surviving long before our species, Homo sapiens, even existed on the planet.
So, who were these people? Well, the most famous fossil we have, found in the Narmada Valley, belongs to a species called Homo erectus. And let me tell you, they were worlds apart from us. They were powerfully built, super athletic, but had a smaller brain. While we'd eventually develop all sorts of complex tools, their key piece of tech was this heavy stone hand axe. And with these simple axes, they fearlessly hunted giant beasts. For over 1 million years, they were the undisputed rulers of India.
I mean, they survived everything. Floods, droughts, giant predators. It probably seemed like their dynasty was going to last forever. But of course, they had no idea that nature was about to unleash a cataclysm that wouldn't just change India, it would change the entire planet.
All the way over in what we now call Indonesia, on the island of Sumatra, the Toba supervolcano was stirring. And this wasn't just any volcano. This was a planetary time bomb, and the countdown had just begun, getting ready to plunge the world of Homo erectus into total darkness. When it blew, the eruption was just unimaginably violent, a sound so loud it probably shook the Himalayas themselves. But the real killer? It was silent. A massive cloud of volcanic ash drifted over India, completely blocking out the sun. Day turned into a permanent, suffocating night. This fine white ash rained down, choking the air, poisoning the rivers, and kicking off a volcanic winter that basically flash froze the entire subcontinent.
So why couldn't these tough, resilient people make it through? It's actually a pretty powerful lesson in adaptability. You see, their greatest strengths, the very things that made them the kings of their world, suddenly became their fatal flaws. Their huge, muscular bodies needed a ton of food, a ton of energy, which was now completely gone. And their powerful hand axes, they were built for giant prey, totally useless against the small, quick animals that managed to survive. In the end, their specialization made them rulers. But in this new, harsh world, being a generalist, being adaptable was the only thing that mattered. Their long reign was over.
But this devastating extinction, it wasn't really an end. It was more like a clearing of the stage. The world was now empty, just waiting for a new kind of human to arrive. It was waiting for us. Back in Africa, things were getting dry. So our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens, made what is probably the most important decision in human history. They decided to leave. But they didn't just march across deserts. No. They used a brilliant strategy. They just hugged the coastline, living off the super reliable buffet of the sea. It was basically a prehistoric superhighway that led them generation by generation all the way out of Africa and towards the east. And about 65,000 years ago, they finally reached the doorstep of India. And what they found must have felt like paradise. The land had healed, and in this beautiful, ironic twist, the very same ash from the Toba eruption that had destroyed the old world, well, it had now decayed into incredibly fertile soil, creating this lush green landscape, just ready for a new beginning.
But this new paradise was still a dangerous place. So how did our ancestors, who were much more lightly built, succeed where the mighty Homo erectus had failed? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They used their brains, not just their brawn. Their secret weapon was a massive leap in technology, the invention of microliths. Now, these were not clumsy hand axes. These were tiny, razor-sharp flakes of stone. You can think of them as the missile technology of the Stone Age. By attaching them to wooden shafts, they created spears and arrows. For the first time, humans could hunt fast-moving animals from a safe distance. This innovation was an absolute game-changer.
But cool tech wasn't enough. They built a whole new kind of society, and it rested on three main pillars. First, they mastered fire, not just for cooking, but as a 24/7 security guard to keep predators away. Second, they turned caves, like the famous ones at Bhimbetka, into fortified homes. And maybe most important of all, they created a sharing economy. The rule was simple and absolute. You share, because your survival depends on the group, not just on yourself. And once they had physical survival figured out, something truly extraordinary started to happen. Culture was born. They began to paint their hunts, their lives, their stories on cave walls. They crafted jewelry from ostrich eggshells, the very first expressions of personal identity. They buried their dead with tools and food, which hints at a belief that maybe death wasn't the final end. Around the campfire, they didn't just share food anymore. They shared stories, passing crucial knowledge down from one generation to the next.
And for tens of thousands of years, this was life. A life of hunting, gathering, and storytelling. But our ancestors were on the verge of one last monumental leap. A leap that would take them from caves to building some of the most advanced cities the ancient world had ever seen.
Then, around 9,000 years ago, another revolution kicked off, and it started with a really simple idea. You could plant seeds and grow your own food. That one thought, it changed everything. For the first time ever, humans stopped chasing their food and started building permanent homes. The hunter became a farmer, and the small nomadic band became a village, laying the groundwork for civilization itself.
And of course, those villages grew into the incredible Indus Valley civilization. And you can see their genius in their cities, like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. I mean, these places were wonders of urban planning, built on perfect 90-degree grids. Every single house had its own bathroom with a drainage system that honestly would put some modern towns to shame. They standardized everything, from the ratio of their bricks to their weights and measures. These weren't just cities, they were, without a doubt, the world's first smart cities.
So, the journey from a drifting island all the way to these magnificent cities is an epic story in itself. But it doesn't end there, not even close. The recent discovery of warrior chariots at a site called Sinali, which looks shockingly similar to the ones described in the Mahabharata, well, that opens up a whole new, thrilling, and pretty mysterious chapter. So the question is, what came next? Well, that's a story for another time.